let's look at an example of using the dot product to find the cosine of the angle, or find the angle between two vectors. Remember, we have this formula that u dot v gives you the length of u times the length of v times the cosine of the angle between them. So we could actually solve this for the cosine of the angle, assuming that both of the vectors have some length to them, so they're not vectors whose entries are all 0. Then we could say the cosine of theta is u dot v over the length of u times the length of v. Now, cosine inverse gives you the angle between 0 and 180, or between 0 and pi, whose cosine is whatever you give it. So that's perfect, because the angle that we said that we would measure between the two vectors was the one that was less than 180. So we can actually find that angle if we just take the cosine inverse of u dot v over length u, length v. Okay, so in this case, u is the vector, let's see, it's 2I, negative 2j, and 1k. And v is the vector, let's see, it's 3I, there is no j, so it must be 0j, and 4k. So now u dot v would be to multiply the corresponding entries. 2 times 3 is 6, negative 2 times 0 is 0, and 1 times 4 is 4, so u dot v is 10. Now the length of u is the square root of 2 squared plus negative 2 squared, that's 4, plus 1, so that's the square root of 9, which is 3. And the length of v is the square root of 3 squared, that's 9, plus 0 squared, that's 0, plus 4 squared is 16, so that's the square root of 25, which is 5. So now we know that the cosine of, or let's see, we know that theta is the cosine inverse. The angle between those two vectors is the cosine inverse of u dot v, which we figured out was 10, all over length u times length v. So this is the cosine inverse of 2/3. Alright, so there's an exact value for theta. We could also get an approximation if we use a graphing, or use a calculator here. Just grab our calculator. All we have to do is plug in 2 divided by 3, and then we'll do the inverse cosine of that. Oh, I'm in degree mode, so theta is about 48.19 degrees. Okay. Or if we wanted to put our calculator in radian mode, then we could calculate 2 divided by 3 and take the inverse cosine. We'd get about 0.841 radians. 0.841 radians. I'll just mark a little mark there so we know it's in radians.